Hello everyone and welcome to Matchbook Flashback. I'm your host, Alec Ogg, and I wanted to thank all of you for listening to episode 1, and especially those of you that left a 5-star review. That helps the show grow, and I really appreciate you. For the newcomers, I've got this big glass jar of matchbooks, and I bought it at an estate sale, and it's a collection of hundreds of matchbooks from all different times and places. And I found something peculiar. When I light the matches and look into the flame, it starts to swirl and I can see a story in the flame, trapped like a memory. Well, since you're here, let's try one out and see if you can see the story too. Let me grab one at random. Oh geez, this one is covered in dried mud. Let's see if I can read the cover. It's a green matchbook. I'm getting dirt all over my desk. It says Nonconnah Creek, and it has a little design of like a creek bottom or a creek gully. Copyright is from 1983. Man, this thing is really dirty. As I mentioned in the last episode, I'm from Memphis, and Nonconnah Creek is actually in Memphis, and it's now more of a drainage canal that goes across the city and dumps into the Mississippi River. The name Nonconnah purportedly means seer in Choctaw or Chickasaw language. In 1952, a 13-year-old named Mark Prichard actually made a map of 25 Native American sites along Nonconnah Creek. I'll try to link it in the show notes. And the map was totally disregarded by city planners, and in the 90s, a lot of these sites were destroyed when Bill Morris Parkway came through. But you can still see a bunch of these artifacts at the Chucalissa Museum, which is this huge archaeological site they discovered in the 30s, which is right where Nonconnah meets the Mississippi. But I digress. Let's light one of these matches. Oh, most of the matches are used up. There's a couple left, though. Okay, when I light this, I need you to look deeply into the flame. Deeply into the flame.
I was probably about... When did I meet you?
Like the first year of high school, going in from that summer, like
13
junior high
years
to high
old?
school, something like that, yeah.
So we were probably about 14, 15 years old, something like that. I mean, that was 1983,
Something.
84.
Yeah.
My house was right next to the woods, so I swept off a place, and I thought, man, this would be a really good place to just build something.
Like a clubhouse or...
Yeah, because we're kids, And that's what kids do, I guess. In that area, you're looking at a drainage ditch.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much a drainage ditch.
Pipes going underneath the neighborhoods and stuff,
Yeah.
All kinds of critters ran up through there,
The drainage ditch ran under the whole city.
Yeah.
So.
All of these run through East Memphis, I think, into the Wolf River tributaries, like kind of a thing. That one's all around.
Nonconnah Creek. Yeah.
If you look on a map, you'll see it.
Late summer, mid-fall, somewhere around
I think
there.
that's why we started digging, because we started talking about, well, if we build a clubhouse, we're going to be freezing our asses off. We got to have a way to, have a heat source out here in the wintertime and this, that, and other without burning it down and blah, 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 and getting firewood.
And there were also girls.
Yeah. And so one of us, I don't remember who it was, somebody suggested, well, if we just dug a room in here, we have a party room down here. In the wintertime, it's going to be cold. In the summertime, it'll be cool. And we don't have to worry about that much of a heat source. Just be out of the wind, and the Earth keeps you warm. Technically,
Correct.
Correct. It began. That was the quest.
People still get on me about this. Like, why were you out there digging a cave? Why were you out there digging a cave? But for us, it was just us being kids. We felt that was the necessity for us to do this. I mean, everybody was involved. Stovall was involved.
Yeah.
Everybody was involved with this cave digging. And it was like just this thing. It was like, we were obsessed with it. And we did a good job. We built rooms and all this other stuff.
Like a hobbit hole.
Like a hobbit hole. Shovels.
Shovel, pickaxe, and whatever.
Yeah.
A rake.
And we had teams, and there were several of us.
Working shifts all night.
Yeah. And literally all night. We were working all night. Like,
we became dwarves.
Digging
in the earth for what? Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine going down 30 feet at an angle?
That's how deep you were going?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, the hill kind of went up at an angle, so we went down, and there were big trees with strong roots over it.
Right.
To hold it together?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds dangerous.
It's very dangerous. It's more than just digging and digging and digging. You got guys digging and digging and digging, and then you got other guys taking buckets out of dirt and dumping it. So you got guys digging and you got guys dumping.
How many guys were there?
Depending on the day and the
I
weekend.
don't know.
And
How many?
Sometimes there was a bunch of us as far as for our little crew, like 6 or 8 or 12. Sometimes it was just 1 or 2 of us down there just, I'm going to dig.
The guy that invented that room and named that room is named John.
What did he name the room?
He named the room Genesis.
Yeah. The beginning of adventure.
The beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the room is the cave?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was because it's the beginning. It's the first room. Because we thought in our little feeble minds at the time that we were going to just dig this whole city out. One night we're digging, and we get tired of digging. And I think there were 3 of us. It was me, John, and Bear.
Yeah.
So me and John were like sitting. We always had a campfire because this was like we were kids, and so you built a campfire outside of the hole, and
I always had a campfire going up top to keep the mosquitoes away from you.
And then all of a sudden, me and John are tired of digging because we've been digging like 12, 14, 16 hours or whatever it was. I don't know. Boom. Out of nowhere. Here comes this bowling-sized
Ball.
Yeah, like the size of your globe. It just hits the side of the cliff. Literally hits the side of the cliff. And, that within itself right there is stunning. Okay? So we're both looking at this boulder as it hits the side of the cliff and rolls down. And we're both looking at it, and then we look at each other. And then we look across the gully to the other side of the cliff, and we see this thing. That was it.
It wasn't that far away.
No, it's like 12 feet.
12 feet?
If that.
It's a steep climbing on both sides, so there's not
If
that far
that.
apart.
If 12 feet.
Yeah.
If 12 feet. you got to imagine this. I mean, you got to paint the picture that this is campfire light. The entrance to the cave is down on the side of a hill, and that's where we had the campfire. And on the other side of the gully is this thing looking at us.
And what do you see?
The most astonishing thing I've ever seen in my life. It's the scariest thing I've ever seen. I cannot even begin to describe it. It's a 7.5 foot to 8 foot tall beast with brown to tannish fur that looks like a human being, but yet it's a dog.
Was it muscular?
Oh, extremely muscular. This was in a campfire light. So its eyes were glowing yellow or reddish kind of color.
Did it show its teeth?
Yes. Oh, yes. That's the one thing I remember the most.
How was it showing its teeth?
And a grin. Like a smile.
And did it look like a human-esque smile? Like it wasn't like
it knew exactly what it was doing.
So it wasn't like a dog just baring its teeth. It
No.
was actually a smile.
No. It had complete and total intelligence about it.
And did you get the impression that it was trying to scare you?
Yes.
Did you get a look at its hands?
Oh, yes, I did. Well, first of all, let's start with the arms. The arms were way below its upper torso, I would say. The hands went down below.
Almost to its ankles?
No, I wouldn't say ankles. I would
Like near the knees, like
Yeah.
proportionate, like a gorilla's,
Yeah.
shorter legs,
and
longer arms.
its claws. It had claws. It had fingers like a human, but its claws were like 3 to 4 inches long.
And were they black?
Yes, black.
And how was it posed when you were looking at it?
It was posed kind of like gripping the side of a tree and just grinning at us.
And so what happens next?
This is what is important. That's why I set up the cave, because everybody ran into the cave, that first room. So we had sharpshooters and shovels shoved out of that hole, that entrance.
When he says sharpshooter, he means a shovel, like a sharpshooter shovel,
Sharp-
not
yeah.
a rifle. We didn't have rifles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're kids, you know. We have these little blades to, you know, and Bear was there. Bear literally peed himself. He literally peed himself. And all night long, man, all night long, we could hear that thing walking around on top of us, you know, because you think about that you're inside of a little hole, you know, and you can hear the branches breaking above you and around you. If that thing wanted to kill us, it could have come down in that hole and just ripped us apart.
Did you feel like it projected fear into
Yes.
you at all?
Yes, completely. That is something that I am really confused about the whole Dogman thing. You know, I've heard since this experience, and since I've come to understand what Dogman is, I've started to learn a little more about cryptoids and about infrasound and all this other stuff. And I honestly believe that this thing has some kind of pheromone that it produces that it just puts the fear of God into you.
So it felt like a different type of fear than you'd experienced in your life?
Overwhelming fear. Like, overwhelming.
Did it have a smell?
I never smelled anything.
Did it have a sound? Did it make any noise?
Oh, it growled.
It growled at you.
What did its growl sound like?
Not human. It didn't sound like somebody pretending to be a dog or a wolf or
Deep, really growl.
Like a lion, maybe?
No.
not so much volume, but
Have you ever been around a dog that doesn't really growl, but it knows when you're being bad and it's just going like that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's kind of it.
more of a, just more guttural than most human voices that sound.
It's real guttural.
Out of the darkness, it would let you know I'm here. And then you kind of go creeping forward to see what up, and then he's growling from over here, and you're like, oh.
More than that, it had a sense. It had a sense that you would know it was coming before it got there.
What did the sense feel like?
Sense felt like overwhelming dread, like you're about to fucking die.
You just start to feel this sensation and you knew it was nearby?
Yeah.
It actually made me think of Lord of the Rings. I mean, I hate to keep talking on that, but like when they would talk about the wyverns with the wraiths and it would terrify you, and like it kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, every time you got that sensation, you'd be like, back in the hole.
Because the crickets and the frogs and the night birds, they would all get quiet. Like,
everything would die.
all of a sudden, wait a minute. So that was your alarm system that something's coming around.
When you and John first saw it and you're down in the hole, did you guys talk about, when you were in the hole, did you talk at all?
No.
Okay.
No.
Did you talk afterwards?
Yes.
Like the next day?
Yes. You got to remember, we didn't come out of that hole till about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the next morning.
Yeah.
Until everything was
daylight
clear.
And the birds are making all the noise. And
it was like, I mean, and I try to tell people, it's kind of like, people ask me that all the time. And I'm like, well, it's kind of like being in a trench in World War I. So we get back to the house, and I'm like, what the fuck did we just see? What the fuck did we just see? And everybody is pale. I mean, pale. You want to talk about blood drain from your face. I was like, and everybody's going, I don't know.
Did you tell your parents at all?
No. It's weird. I never talked to them about that. It's very strange. I don't know why we didn't do that.
They would have said we were crazy making up stories.
It could have been.
Who believes you? People,
Yeah.
How
did you guys talk about it? Did you call it like a werewolf or just a beast or what?
A thing.
Just the thing in the woods. Yeah.
Yeah, a thing. This is way before Dogman, or way before. Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a werewolf, or
something like that. Yeah,
and like that. But we didn't even think about it that way. We didn't know what a Dogman was at the time. You got to remember, we were stupid kids. We were playing D&D. I mean, we're geeks.
Did John share this same feeling? Did you talk to him about it?
Of course.
Okay, when they were telling me about it, that was what stood out in my mind, because his nickname was, I'm not making this up, we called him Zero the Hero.
Yes, we did.
He was the first to break and just leave your ass behind and the first sign of danger. But when they were telling me about it, like I say, at first I thought they were joking and but John had a whole new level of terror. I was like, wait a minute, he's not usually this afraid. So I was like, maybe there's something to it. No, y'all are. And then it was like the next time I was out there with him, I was curious, but come on, a monster, really? And then I started hearing stuff like, maybe y'all weren't just messing with me.
I can tell you a story about John, too. I can tell you a story about that with Dogman. We used to be young men, okay? I'm 54, you're 55.
Yeah.
Sadly to say. Okay. So we used to be young men, and we would take young girls out to the woods
and hang out with them out there
and do what young men do with young girls. So that was kind of what the cave was about.
You guys have a party room in the woods? Yeah, we do. We had dug little shelves in there where we had the boom boxes, you put it up there. And so if it was raining awesome. And there was water on the floor from it, you had a place to put your drinks and your stuff. We put little lights up in there, and all I was missing was a disco ball.
So I was with said young girl, and he comes running out of the woods. I mean, like full sprint running out of the woods. And he's like, it's back. It's back.
I was there that time because he ran past me saying the same thing. Bill, it's back. It's back. It's back. And I was like, okay, this is what I find
what
out.
Are you talking about? It's back. And I got back to the house because I'm a little upset because, you interrupted my time or whatever. And he's like, dude, the thing came up and I was cooking a hot dog on a stick and it came up and it took it off the stick.
Like in front of him.
Jeez.
Yeah. I was there that time. Like that time I wasn't right with him because we had a party going on but I heard John his footsteps and it's back. And he ran past me.
I'm like, what are you talking about, man? What are you talking about?
Did you ever talk to John about it, grabbing the hot dog?
John talked to you about it. He grabbed the hot dogs right in front of me. It's like...
John is not receptive to this. He's one of those guys that he's shut down.
So he said it's back.
Yeah.
And managed to tell you that it ate the hot.
Sometimes he didn't want to go back to the cave after that.
And this was before you had your experience?
No, this is after.
This was after.
Yeah.
So it didn't scare you guys enough to keep you out of the woods?
Oh, no.
No.
How do you explain it being so terrifying, but then you are able to go back?
You got to understand that we invested a lot of time in this. Can you imagine working and digging that kind of structure and being a young kid? This is kind of like almost like approving a man kind of thing, like your manhood. Okay, ain't nobody gonna take me from this shit.
You were committed to the cave.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What would you say to skeptical people who are thinking, oh, they just saw a bear?
First of all, there are no bear in Memphis. Okay. All right. Good luck finding a bear here.
In the Ridgeway area, people would notice.
Absolutely not. I think, honestly, that we were impeding in that thing's feeding ground. Because what we were doing was building a cave, and that thing was going to eat.
What do you think it was eating?
Possums and
deer,
badgers, all kind of stuff out there.
Anything,
deer
cow,
that were running out through there.
Anything you get his hands on. Same thing.
And at the time, did y'all think that it was flesh and blood, an animal?
It looked pretty flesh and blood to me.
Yeah.
It didn't look like a spirit or a phantom or
Now, I had a cousin that said, who has since passed. His name was Jeffrey Bullock, and he was a great guy and a brilliant man. He could speak like 4 or 5 different languages. He said that maybe perhaps we disturbed Indian burial ground,
which is possible,
and that we disturbed something, and this was the result of
punishment.
And I don't believe that, because I just don't. I think that this thing, we were in between it and its food.
Did the face have like a muzzle of a German Shepherd or wolf?
When it turned, and maybe it's just the angle that I saw it, I thought that the face was slightly shorter, like not quite so pulled out for as big as it was. I'm saying proportionate.
Let's talk about
when you see like
it.
the Egyptian statues of Anubis, like for a dog's head on a man's body, if it's 12 feet tall, it's got a proportionate thing. It was like a shorter,
It
like
has a shorter snout.
Shorter snout, yeah. Wider, broader, kind of a...
Like a pit bull.
Yeah, and it made the smile look just, I get like goosebumps like when I think...
Yeah, so let's talk about the time you saw it.
Well, we saw it a few times out there. It was, that was the first time that I saw it. It was
Can you set up the first time you saw it, if you remember?
It was kind of glimpses where, in your imagination, you think that you think you see it for a second, and then kind of ducks into the shadow, but he's definitely walking. So I saw it, but he wasn't being still for very long, except when he stops and he's watching you, and then you're like, and you see, and as soon as that, then he kind of, it reminds me of the way that you hear these people talk about these legends of like Sasquatch tree hugging, and if they think that you notice them, all of a sudden they duck back and kind of go on somewhere else. But he can be real quiet when he wants. I mean, I guess that's just a thing. It could have been a she too, I guess.
And so you saw it a couple other times, you said?
Oh, he would kind of like, everybody would feel weird at the same time, and we would all kind of like twitch a little bit, like, what in the world? And like snapping your fingers, the birds, the crickets, the whatever.
Gone.
There was a couple of owls out there, different kinds of owls, and just they would all shut up for a second, and you're like, uh-oh, he's back. And so he was out, and I was not of the same frame of mind as them. I grew up with terror, from humans and other things, and it's like you can only terrify me for so long, and then it's like it enhances my curiosity I want to find strength from my fear, not whatever. So when I came out there, I was always into like playing with blades and swords and martial arts and stuff because of the stuff I went through growing up. If you see those oversized Bowie knives that some people carry, I had 2 of them up under my, like Crocodile Dundee, up under my jacket. I was like, so I was like, I want to try to get to know this thing, because you hear tales of like Daniel and the Lion's Den kind of thing with Buddhist monks, where you've got a tiger and they know it's that tiger that's eating people, but it won't attack the monk sometimes in the tales because their demeanor, they calm and they just project peace, and something about the tiger will leave them alone. So I was kind of trying to do that, and I would go out and try to, and not like just run up on it, but I would gradually get closer, trying to kind of walk quiet, sneak up on it a little bit, say, hey, how you doing? And then he would kind of, I guess he was curious, and then I'd get a glimpse of something and see bushes moving, and then he'd back off. But I was ready if I was going to start hacking and slashing, just in case. I had that stuff ready to go. When he got close, my hands would go behind my back, and that's, they would be in my hands. They'd be out, but just not, I didn't want to appear threatening. You would, of course, in the woods, you find dead animals that are partially eaten from stuff and this, that, and other. And sometimes you would find like, how can I put this? Like a large dog or something, and like just a leg, like, how when muscle is cut in a certain way, it makes like bacon strips, like ribbons kind of flesh hanging off the bones. And it's like, it didn't, now that it just was kind of bizarre, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but it was, when we talked about it and we started talking, I was like, oh, well, I guess it's got to eat something, because if you remember, that neighborhood, of course, like everywhere in Memphis, people have dogs. And when they're barking at a person walking down the road, you can kind of hear this dog's barking and that dog answers him, this, that, and other, but it gets louder where the person is walking, and there's kind of a cadence, like a certain pace. At random, all of the dogs in the neighborhood would just just go crazy, and then they get quiet, And then a few minutes later, half an hour later, they just, and sometimes you'd hear there's a difference between cats fighting and when a cat gets pulled into pieces, and
I don't think it's still here. I do not think it's still here.
They put the road over there. It's probably moved on.
You have so much. The whole lay of the land has changed so much that
further south, further east.
So we probably, by our own construction, drove it out of this area, which is a good thing. Thank God. But it doesn't need to be in the city.
What do you think they are at this point?
Who knows?
I think they're some kind of cryptid. I think they've always been here. I think you're dealing with an apex predator that is impossible to be hunted. Really impossible. I think that this thing lets you see it when it wants you to see it. Otherwise, you're gonna die. And I really think a lot about missing people in parks, state parks and stuff like that. I think about those guys, and I think maybe that might be your key.
Did you ever have any nightmares about it?
Oh my God, I had 20 years of nightmares.
What were the nightmares like?
Oh, I had a reoccurring nightmare. My nightmare was where I used to go to the restroom. The window was right in front of the toilet. It's a very sunny day, and I'm starting to urinate, and here comes this thing out of the woods. And I'm looking through the window at it, and it keeps coming, and it's coming really slowly, and I can't quit peeing. So, that's my nightmare.
Some of that stuff where we were digging is eroded down.
It's not the same.
It's not up high like it was.
No, it's not the same.
The torrential rains and all that have just torn it down, so the ground is lower. It was these things going way up like this.
I can't even find where the cave was.
Well, because it caved in.
Yeah, no shit.
And then it started so you're not going to find it looking in the same way that it was when we were digging in there.
We made the mistake of going straight up with the tunnel.
Some other kids found it and left it uncovered. And the next heavy rain, then the whole thing was...
Oh, man.
Well, but maybe it's good because it might have caved in anyway.
Yeah, might have saved your lives.
Yeah, no kidding.
But we were mad at the time.
So, what is the nature of this thing? That's really what we need to understand. And I don't understand that. And I think that is the point of nightmares.
Well, the match has gone out, and as the smoke clears, it smells like a campfire lingering here in this room. I guess I need to clean up all this dirt that came off that matchbook. It's all over my desk. But I hope you enjoyed flashing back to that Dogman encounter as much as I did. And if you did, perhaps you could text a link of this episode to a friend who might enjoy it as well. Let them relive the encounter. Or a 5-star rating would go a long way to support this seedling of a show. Either way, I'm glad you were here with me, and I hope you come back next week because I have another match to light.